My mother slapped me so hard at my sister's wedding that my diamond earring skidded across a marble floor in front of 200 guests. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. And for one long second the only sound in that grand ballroom was the soft spin of my earring, as it caught the chandelier light and came to rest near the bride's table. But that was not the moment that destroyed my family. That came later. That came when a black car pulled up outside the hotel, and a man stepped out wearing a dark Armani suit with 2 lawyers behind him, and the kind of calm expression that only powerful people know how to wear. My mother saw him through the ballroom doors and screamed so loudly people on the 3rd floor turned to look. Because the man walking toward us was not just any guest. He was the CEO of the investment firm that controlled 40% of my father's company. He was also my boss. And he had watched everything live. If you think family should be able to take from you just because you share blood, then this story will make you uncomfortable. If you know what it feels like to be the one they use, the one they belittle, and the one they expect to smile while they rob you blind, then stay with me. Because what happened that night did not end with a slap. It ended with a truth my family had spent 32 years trying to bury. My name is Madison Hayes. I am 32 years old. And this is the story of how my sister's wedding became the night my entire family learned the difference between love and entitlement. It started the morning of the wedding. I arrived at the Grand View Hotel at 8 in the morning. 3 hours before the ceremony. The ballroom was still half asleep in that expensive kind of way. Florists were adjusting white roses. Event planners were checking lists. Someone was polishing gold charger plates that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. The room was beautiful. Sophisticated. Elegant. Everything my younger sister Sophia had dreamed about since we were little girls playing wedding in our parents' living room. I stood in the doorway for a moment and took it all in. White roses. Gold accents. Crystal chandeliers. Floor-length ivory drapes. It looked like the kind of wedding featured in bridal magazines, where everyone is smiling and beautiful and nothing ugly ever happens. I should have known better. Madison, finally. My mother's voice hit me before her eyes did. I turned and saw her coming toward me in a pale blue gown covered in beadwork. Perfect hair. Perfect makeup. Perfect posture. Carol Hayes had spent most of her life performing the role of elegant society wife, and she never broke character in public. Her gaze dropped over me slowly. That dress, she said. Couldn't you have chosen something softer? Something more feminine? You look like you are heading to a board meeting. Good morning to you too, Mom, I said. She ignored that. Sophia looks radiant. You should see her. She absolutely glows. A real bride. I glanced down at my dress. Navy silk. Sleek lines. Long sleeves. Understated and expensive without screaming for attention. It was elegant. It was appropriate. It was exactly the kind of dress a woman wears when she knows her worth and has nothing to prove. Which was probably why my mother hated it. I smiled anyway. I am sure she looks beautiful. That comparison had always been there. Sophia was warmth and softness and tradition. Sophia loved pastel colors and handwritten notes and little children and bridal magazines and antique china. Sophia made people feel comfortable. She knew how to tilt her head and widen her eyes and sound grateful even when she was taking without asking. She was my parents' favorite in all the ways that counted to them. I was ambition. I was sharp corners and direct answers and long hours and a life built by discipline instead of charm. In our family that made me useful. Never lovable. Madison, can you check the seating chart? Dad called from across the ballroom. But do not reorganize everything like you always do. I took a slow breath. The seating chart was an obvious disaster. Divorced couples were seated together. 2 business rivals were placed side by side. Brian's conservative aunt was directly beside Sophia's loudest college friend, who had already started drinking champagne. I could fix it in 5 minutes. Instead I said, of course, Dad. That was how it always worked. They needed my competence as long as it arrived quietly. They wanted my labor without my authority. My solutions without my voice. My money without my boundaries. I moved toward the chart and heard the whispering begin almost immediately. Still single. She works too much. 32 already. Pretty in a severe way. Poor Carol. At least Sophia turned out normal. That last one came from Aunt Sally. Loud enough for me to hear. Soft enough for her to deny it if I called her out. I kept walking. I had learned years ago that the people who need to make you small in order to feel comfortable are never exhausted by it. You can spend your whole life trying to earn respect from them, and they will still find new ways to explain why you do not deserve it. Dad came beside me while I straightened a stack of place cards. Family comes first, Madison, he said in that casual tone he used when he was about to say something cruel and call it wisdom. You will understand that when you have one of your own. If you ever slow down long enough to build one. There it was. The old accusation disguised as concern. At 32 I had an executive title. A private driver allowance. Board access. Equity compensation. A home worth more than most of my extended family would earn in a lifetime. But because I did not have a husband or children, they treated me like I had somehow failed the final exam of womanhood. I looked at him. Maybe family should treat people like they matter before expecting loyalty in return. He frowned slightly as if I had spoken in a language he did not understand. Across the room Sophia floated toward us in a satin robe, while 2 bridesmaids followed behind her carrying makeup bags and steaming coffee. Even in preparation she looked curated. Gold slippers. Fresh blowout. Skin luminous. Smile soft and practiced. Madison, she said, and leaned in for an air kiss that did not touch my cheek. Thank God you are here. The florist nearly put the wrong ribbons on the sweetheart table. Can you imagine? Tragic, I said. She laughed lightly as if I were kidding. Her eyes dropped to the envelope in my hand. The card with the final payment confirmation for the wedding planner. $50,000. My contribution. My invisible contribution. I had wired it 3 months earlier after Dad made a vague comment over dinner about costs piling up and how weddings today were so difficult for parents to manage alone. He had not asked directly. He did not have to. I transferred the money before dessert arrived. No one thanked me publicly. No one mentioned it once. Sophia glanced away from the envelope without curiosity. Of course she did. Things appeared around her the way flowers appear in a luxury hotel lobby. Beautiful. Timely. Effortless. As if no human cost had created them. By 9:30 the ballroom was full of relatives and vendors and nerves. I had fixed the seating plan. Recovered a missing boutonniere. Called the bakery to confirm the cake delivery after discovering the planner had the wrong number on file. Redirected the audio team when they placed the wireless speaker too close to the string quartet setup. Quiet work. Invisible work. The kind that prevents disaster while ensuring someone else gets praised for a seamless day. At one point Aunt Patricia stopped beside me with a glass of orange juice. You really are good at these things, she said. Organizing. Solving problems. Stepping in where needed. Sophia is lucky to have you. I waited. There was always a second sentence. Of course not every woman is meant for the soft life, she added. Some women are simply built for service. She said it smiling. I smiled back. And some women confuse dependence with grace, I said. Her smile twitched. Then she laughed a little too loudly and wandered away. That was another family rule. If I defended myself, then I was cold. If they insulted me, then they were teasing. If I achieved something, then I was intimidating. If Sophia received something, then she was blessed. At 10:15 my cousin Derek found me by the bar, where I was checking hotel messages on my phone. "Hey Madison," he said. "Still living in that tiny city apartment?" "It is not tiny," I said. He grinned. "Right. The famous Penthouse." Nearby 3 cousins snorted with laughter. "You all still think I made that up," I said. Sophia walked over just in time to hear that. "Did you tell them about the Penthouse again?" she asked in a sweet voice. "Madison always jokes like that." I looked at her. "I am not joking." She gave the group that little shrug of hers. "The one that said we love her anyway. Last year she told me she was buying a Tesla too." I did buy a Tesla. That drew more laughter. Not because they believed I was lying, but because it was easier for them to treat my life like fantasy than accept that I had built something they did not understand. My phone buzzed in my hand. A message from my concierge. Delivery confirmed for tomorrow morning. Wine cabinet installation at 10 a.m. Also, the magazine requested another interior shoot if you approve. The magazine was Architectural Digest. They had featured my penthouse the month before in an article about modern luxury spaces designed by women under 35. I could have shown my relatives the article. I could have opened the digital spread right there and let them stare at the floor-to-ceiling windows and sculptural staircase and panoramic skyline view. But there is a point in every dysfunctional family where proving the truth becomes its own humiliation. So I locked my phone and slipped it into my clutch. Around 11 the photographer asked for family portraits before the ceremony. We lined up beneath a floral arch in the side salon. Dad in his tuxedo. Mom in her beaded gown. Sophia radiant and glowing. Me in navy silk standing at the edge of every frame like a tasteful afterthought. "Closer, sweetheart," Mom said to Sophia while adjusting her veil. "Chin up. That is it. Beautiful." Then to me. "Could you angle a bit? You are blocking the flowers." The photographer asked for a sister's shot. Sophia looped her arm through mine. "Smile," she whispered through clenched teeth. "Please do not make this day weird." I turned slightly toward her. "I am not the one making it weird." Her smile never moved. "Just be easy today, Madison. For once." The flash went off. What is funny is that people think cruelty always arrives screaming. Most of the time it arrives smiling for photographs. The ceremony itself was lovely if you ignored the undercurrent running through my chest. Brian looked genuinely happy. Nervous and open and a little overwhelmed. I had always liked him more than I liked the performance of him with Sophia. He seemed decent. A little passive maybe. But decent. He looked at her like he believed in the story she was selling. I wondered how long that would last. They exchanged vows under a canopy of roses while sunlight streamed through the high windows. Guests dabbed their eyes. The quartet played softly. My mother squeezed my aunt's hand during the vows as if she herself had authored romance. I stood in my bridesmaid place and smiled when required. No one could have guessed that beneath the controlled expression, I was replaying something I had overheard half an hour before the ceremony. It happened by accident. I had stepped into the small lounge behind the ballroom to grab a bottle of water. The door was half closed. My parents were inside speaking in low voices. After the speeches, Dad said, "You are sure she will not push back?" Mom asked. "Not in front of everyone." Dad sounded certain. "Madison cares too much about appearances. She will do the right thing once there is pressure. And if she refuses?" Mom laughed softly. "She will not. Besides, what does she need a 4-bedroom penthouse for? It is not like she has a family." I stood frozen outside the door with my hand around the bottle until the plastic bent. "We will frame it as a gift from the whole family," Dad said. People will love it. She cannot make a scene at her sister's wedding. I left before they could open the door and see me. That moment changed everything. Until then I thought they would hint. Guilt me. Corner me privately. I thought they would use emotional manipulation the way they always had. I did not realize they had planned a public ambush. Not a request. A strategy. By the time the ceremony ended and guests moved into cocktail hour, I had made my decision. No. Not maybe. Not if they ask nicely. Not if Sophia cries. Not if Dad looks hurt or Mom looks betrayed or the room turns against me. No. There are moments in life when one word becomes the line between who you were and who you are willing to become. For me that word was no. During cocktail hour I slipped away to the terrace overlooking the city. The skyline shimmered in the late afternoon sun. Somewhere out there my penthouse towered above blocks of glass and steel. 45 floors up. 4,500 square feet. Quiet. Bright. Mine. Every inch of it was earned. I bought it after closing the Singapore expansion deal. The biggest deal of my career at the time. A $40 million move that changed the trajectory of Hayes Capital in Asia, and put me on the internal shortlist for senior leadership. Marcus Chen had congratulated me in his office with a bottle of champagne, and a folder that held the compensation package. You should buy something extraordinary, he had said. Something no one can ever tell you that you did not earn. I laughed and said that sounds dramatic. He looked at me for a long second. You would be amazed how often successful women are expected to surrender what they build. Especially by family. At the time I thought he was being cynical. Now I realized he was being precise. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant. Hope the wedding circus is survivable. Your Monday briefing is ready, and yes, the Zurich proposal looks strong. Also the skyline from your place tonight is unreal. She attached a photo taken from my living room. Sunset washing the city gold. The glass walls glowing. The room calm and untouched. Your sanctuary awaits, boss, she wrote. Sanctuary. That word landed deep. Because that is what the penthouse had become. The first space in my life that asked nothing from me except that I exist inside it. No criticism. No comparisons. No pressure to shrink. No family narratives. Just silence and light and the proof of what I had built without permission. I stared at the photo and knew with complete clarity that I would rather lose every one of them than hand over the one thing in my life that was wholly mine. At 6 the reception began. Guests took their seats in the ballroom. Candles flickered across the tables. The band started a low jazz set. Champagne flowed. Laughter rose. The doors opened and the newly married couple entered to applause. If a stranger had walked in then they would have seen wealth and beauty and celebration. They would not have seen the trap waiting at the center of it. Dinner moved in courses. Salads. Sea bass. Filet. Speeches from Brian's best man and Sophia's maid of honor. Stories about childhood and love and soulmates. My mother cried delicately twice. Dad gave the kind of warm public smile that made people think he was a generous man. All through dinner I watched them. The glances between Mom and Dad. The way Sophia kept smoothing her napkin and checking the room. The way Aunt Sally whispered to Aunt Patricia, and looked at me with that anticipatory little smile. They were waiting. After the cake was cut, and before the dancing started, Dad stood and tapped a spoon against his champagne flute. The sound rang bright through the ballroom. The band went quiet. Conversations stopped. 200 faces turned toward the head table. Dad smiled into the microphone. Before we continue this beautiful evening, your mother and I want to share something special. My heartbeat slowed. Not sped up. Slowed. That is how I knew I was done being afraid. Carol and I believe family is everything, he said. And there is nothing we would not do to support our children as they begin new chapters in life. A murmur of approval moved through the room. Mom reached for Sophia's hand. Sophia lowered her head in a perfect imitation of emotional surprise. So Dad continued. We are thrilled to announce that Madison has graciously agreed to gift Sophia and Brian her city penthouse as a wedding present. Applause exploded. The room lit up with delighted shock. People gasped and smiled and turned toward me with admiration already forming in their eyes. The kind reserved for grand gestures and family generosity. Sophia pressed both hands to her chest. Oh my God, Madison. Her voice shook just enough. Not too much. Are you serious? My eyes went to her face. She already knew. I saw it in the tiny twitch at the corner of her mouth. In the fact that she was not confused. Not stunned. Not asking what he meant. Just stepping into a script that had already been rehearsed. Dad lifted his hand toward me. Come up here, sweetheart. Let us have the whole family together. I remained seated. The applause began to thin. I stood slowly. I could feel eyes everywhere. Extended family. Friends. Clients. Colleagues. People from my father's business network. People from mine. Wives of board members. Junior associates from the firm. A former client from Singapore. My boss's wife was at table 12. 3 strategic partners were at table 8. A venture lawyer I knew from Hong Kong was seated near the dance floor. My private life and professional world had just collided in front of all of them. I did not rush. I did not smile. I set my napkin down and said clearly enough for the microphone to miss, but the room to hear. I am sorry. What exactly did you just say? Dad's smile tightened. Your penthouse, darling. For Sophia and Brian. Your mother and I thought it would be the perfect wedding gift. This was not discussed with me, I said. Silence rippled outward. Mom's posture stiffened. Do not do this here, Madison, she said with a polished smile that reached nowhere near her eyes. Do what I asked. Embarrass your sister on her wedding day, Dad said. I looked at him. You announced the transfer of my home in front of 200 people without my consent. I am not the one creating embarrassment. More silence. Sophia's eyes glistened. Madison, I thought you wanted me to be happy. Your happiness does not require my home, I said. A few people shifted in their seats. The room was beginning to sense that something was very wrong. Dad kept the microphone in his hand like authority itself. It is only property, he said. You can afford another one. Then you buy her one, I said. The gasp that followed was almost physical. You could feel it hit the walls. My cousin Derek muttered something under his breath. Aunt Sally leaned toward Aunt Patricia with wide eyes. Brian looked from me to Sophia, and back again like a man realizing there is a second conversation happening inside the first one, and he does not know the language. Sophia leaned toward the microphone now. I cannot believe you are making this into a thing. It is one gift. One kind gesture. I would do it for you. No, you would not, I said. Her face changed for just a second. Just enough for me to see the softness crack. Madison, Mom said. Stop this. Smile. Come here and give your sister the keys. No. I said it calmly. That made it worse. If I had shouted, then maybe they could have written me off as emotional. Hysterical. Bitter. If I had cried, they could have pitied me. But calm refusal in a woman terrifies people who are used to controlling her through shame. Dad lowered the microphone slightly. You do not understand what you are doing. I understand perfectly, I said. The answer is no. The first boo came from somewhere near the back. Then a voice from my mother's side of the family. It is her sister. Another voice. What does she need that much space for? Someone else. Family comes first. There it was. The crowd. The pressure chamber. The social punishment they had designed to crush me. Aunt Sally stood halfway. Madison, honey, be reasonable. Uncle Tom called across the room. You do not even have kids. Sophia is starting a real family. Real family. That phrase landed like ice. Sophia lowered her eyes and let tears gather. She did not wipe them. She just let them shine there for everyone to see. Brian finally spoke. Madison, maybe we could all talk after tonight. I looked at him. After tonight there will be nothing to discuss. That seemed to confuse him more than anger him. Because decent people do not imagine this kind of entitlement until they are standing in the middle of it. My phone vibrated in my clutch. I ignored it. Dad raised the microphone again. Do not be selfish. Selfish, I repeated. For refusing to surrender my home after being publicly ambushed. Everything is about you, with Mom said sharply. For once, can you not just think of your sister? For once, can any of you think of me? That shut the room up. Not fully. But enough. Because people know truth when it enters a room. Even if they do not want to side with it. I continued. I paid for this wedding. I solved half the problems today before anyone even knew they existed. I have shown up for this family again and again and again. But the one time I say no to giving away the home I bought with my own money, suddenly I am selfish. Faces changed. A few guests turned toward my parents. I watched the calculation begin. Mom's smile vanished. Do not air private matters, she snapped. You made them public the second you put my house in your speech, I said. Another vibration from my phone. I pulled it out this time. 3 missed calls from Marcus Chen. A text beneath them. Saw the live stream. On standby. Live stream. I looked around and spotted Brian's younger brother near table 6 with his phone propped discreetly against a centerpiece. The red light was on. Broadcasting. Of course. This whole ugly performance was not just in the ballroom. It was online. Watching from homes and bars and offices were people I did business with. People my father did business with. Strangers. Friends of guests. Anyone who had clicked a notification and decided to watch a wedding reception turn into a public shakedown. My pulse remained steady. I typed one message under the table. Wait for my signal. Then I slipped the phone back into my clutch. Mom saw it. Put that away. This is family time. Apparently it is also public entertainment, I said. Since we are being live streamed. Heads turned toward Brian's brother. He grabbed the phone too late. Whispers spread. Streaming. Is this live? Oh my God. Dad's face lost some color. That was the first moment I saw fear in him. Not fear for me. Fear of consequences. Sophia reached for the microphone again with trembling fingers. I do not understand why you are humiliating me like this. I let the silence stretch before answering. I am not humiliating you. I am refusing you. There is a difference. She stared at me with tears in her eyes and hatred underneath them. For a moment I saw the child she had always been beneath the sweetness. The one who never had to hear no. The one who believed wanting something made her worthy of it. The one who grew up in a house where my labor became her privilege. My phone vibrated again. Another message from Marcus. Your call. I looked at the room. 200 witnesses. My parents on a stage made of their own arrogance. My sister dressed like innocence. The live stream still spreading. And suddenly I remembered something from the purchase contract for the penthouse. An odd clause Marcus himself had insisted on. At the time I thought it was excessive. The penthouse had originally been a corporate property transferred to me as part of a high-level retention package. Everything was legal. Clean. Properly documented. But because it originated through executive compensation, there were protective provisions in the contract in case of coercion or attempted forced transfer under duress. Clause 15.3. The company retained a right of first intervention if any third party attempted to manipulate or pressure an executive into surrendering the asset in a way that exposed the firm to reputational or legal risk. Marcus had said this is not about distrust. It is about pattern recognition. I had signed without fully understanding why he seemed so certain I might need protection from my own blood. Now I knew. Dad stepped closer to the edge of the dance floor. Last chance, Madison. Do not do this. My answer was the same. No. That is when Mom came off the stage. She moved fast. Her beaded gown flashing in the lights. Microphone still in her hand. Rage breaking through her polished exterior. Madison Hayes, she said into the speakers. You will not ruin this day. I stood my ground. I am not ruining anything. She came closer. You ungrateful child. After everything we gave you. After everything we sacrificed. You cannot do this one thing for your sister. You gave Sophia everything, I said quietly. I earned what I have. Her face twisted. The microphone caught the change in her breathing. Guests leaned forward in their chairs. This is where the night turned. Not because I had refused. But because entitlement always escalates when it fails. She stopped a few feet from me. Her voice dropped lower, but the microphone still carried it through the room. Give her the keys now. No. Her eyes widened like she genuinely could not process the existence of resistance. Then louder. Everyone. My daughter seems to have forgotten what family means. A few people called out weak support. Give it to her. Do the right thing. Stop being difficult. But many had gone quiet now. Because this no longer felt like a sweet family surprise gone wrong. It felt like coercion. Ugly and obvious and impossible to unsee. Mom stepped closer until I could smell her perfume. That same heavy floral scent from every childhood recital and holiday photo and school fundraiser where she smiled for strangers and cut me down in the car on the way home. Do not make me regret raising you, she hissed. I looked her right in the eye. You already do. The slap came so fast I saw only the blur of her hand before pain exploded across my cheek. The sound cracked through the ballroom. Sharp. Clean. Horrifying. My head snapped sideways. My diamond earring tore free and flew through the air. It hit the marble floor with a tiny metallic skitter and spun once, twice, 3 times before falling still near the bridal table. No one moved. No one breathed. The microphone in my mother's hand amplified her ragged inhale. Somewhere a glass tipped over and rolled in a circle on the floor. Then even that stopped. Pain spread hot across my face. But it was not the pain I remember most. It was the silence. The absolute total silence of 200 people witnessing a truth that could never again be hidden behind family language. My mother's hand remained half raised. Her expression flickering between fury and shock. I do not think she expected herself to do it. I think for one split second she lost control and forgot there were witnesses. Then she remembered. And so did everyone else. I turned my head slowly and looked down at the floor. My earring glittered beneath the chandelier. I did not touch my cheek. I did not cry. I did not yell. Instead I walked toward the earring. My heels clicked against marble. Slow. Even. Deliberate. Each step sounded louder than the last. When I reached it, I bent down, picked it up, fastened it back into my ear. Then I straightened, smoothed my dress, lifted my chin, and looked at my mother. She looked smaller now. Not physically. Morally. I spoke in a voice so steady it unnerved even me. "Excuse me." Then I turned toward the head table. "Congratulations, Sophia. I hope your marriage brings you joy." I picked up my clutch from the table and walked toward the ballroom doors. Behind me, chaos did not begin immediately. That was the strange part. People were still stunned, frozen inside the moment. Then Dad shouted my name. Then someone gasped again. Then voices rose all at once. "Carol, what did you do? Stop her. Madison, wait. Someone get the live stream down." Sophia was crying now for real, or at least louder. Brian was talking over 3 other people. Chairs scraped. The photographer finally started clicking again, like instinct had returned before morality did. I did not turn around. I reached the hallway outside the ballroom, and only then allowed myself one deep breath. My hand shook once. Just once. Then I called Marcus. He picked up on the first ring. "Madison." "Green light," I said. His voice changed immediately. Controlled. Cold. Efficient. "Understood. Are you safe?" "I am leaving now." "Are you hurt?" "Nothing that matters." I heard movement on his end. Car door. Voices. The clipped coordination of people already mobilizing. "How long until you are home?" he asked. 45 minutes. "Good. I am heading to the hotel with legal. We will handle the rest." "Bring the shareholder agreement," I said. "The one my father never really read." A pause. Then Marcus exhaled almost like satisfaction. "With pleasure." I ended the call and stepped into the elevator. In the mirrored wall I saw myself clearly. Cheek reddening. Lip unshaken. Eyes calm in a way that felt almost detached. That elevator ride down felt like passing between 2 lives. The daughter who stayed quiet so family gatherings could survive. And the woman who was finally willing to let everything burn. By the time I reached the parking area, my phone had already started exploding. Texts from cousins. Calls from unknown numbers. 3 messages from my mother. 2 from Sophia. 1 from Dad that simply said, "Come back right now." I ignored them all. I drove myself home. The city blurred past in lights and glass and traffic. I kept one hand on the wheel, and one against my cheek where the skin was beginning to swell. At a red light I glanced at my reflection in the rearview mirror, and thought with detached clarity. She really did it. After all the years of subtle contempt and emotional neglect and public comparison, the final truth of my family was brutally simple. The moment I refused to serve my assigned role, they chose violence. There is a kind of freedom in seeing something clearly after spending years doubting your own perception. I reached my building at 10:17. James the doorman took one look at my face and stepped forward. "Miss Hayes, are you all right?" I gave him a tired smile. "I will be. Thank you, James." He opened the door quietly. No questions. No pity. Just respect. Upstairs the penthouse was exactly as I had left it. Quiet. Warm. The city glowing through walls of glass. The air carrying the faint clean scent of cedar, and white tea from the diffuser in the entryway. I kicked off my heels. Changed into jeans and a soft gray sweater. Filled an ice pack at the kitchen sink. Sat by the windows with the pack against my cheek, and let the silence settle around me. My home. Still mine. For the first time all day I allowed myself to feel something beyond control. Not sadness. Not even anger. Relief. Because the uncertainty was over. The wondering. The bargaining. The hope that maybe they would eventually respect me if I just succeeded enough, or gave enough, or endured enough. That illusion was dead. And good riddance. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Entering the building now. Then another. Your father just saw me. I stood and walked to the windows overlooking the city below. From 45 floors up everything looked orderly. Peaceful. Traffic lights shifting. Rooftops gleaming. Thousands of lives moving through their own stories, unaware that in one ballroom downtown an entire family system was collapsing under the weight of its own greed. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Madison, a male voice whispered. It was Brian's younger brother. You need to know this is insane. Your dad looks like he is about to faint. This guy just walked in, and your mom screamed his name. I almost smiled. What exactly happened? Everyone went quiet when he entered. Like dead quiet. He has 2 lawyers with him. Your dad stood up and said, Mr. Chen, what are you doing here? And your mother looked like she had seen a ghost. Who is he? Someone very interested in what happened tonight, I said. Your dad keeps saying no, this is a misunderstanding. I am sure he is. There was shuffling on the other end. Wait. He is asking for the microphone. Then the line crackled with movement and a rush of background sound before I heard it. Marcus's voice. Even through a phone speaker it carried authority like polished steel. Good evening. My name is Marcus Chen. I believe clarification is needed. The ballroom went silent again. I leaned one shoulder against the window and listened. First he said, I want it made clear that Madison Hayes is not merely an attendee at my company. She is Vice President of Development at Hayes Capital, and one of the most valuable executives in this city. A ripple of astonishment moved through the room. I could hear it. Someone actually said what? Marcus continued. She led our Asia-Pacific expansion. She closed the Singapore deal that generated 40 million in direct value. She built our Tokyo office into the highest performing branch in the region. She negotiated partnerships your own company has tried and failed to access. My father's voice cut in, weak and disbelieving. That is impossible. No, Richard, Marcus said. What is impossible is that you have spent all this time underestimating your own daughter. I closed my eyes. Not because I was emotional. Because hearing someone speak the truth without apology felt almost unreal. Mom's voice came next. High and brittle. Why are you involved in our family matter? Marcus did not raise his voice. Because you made it public. Because you attempted to coerce one of my executives into surrendering a protected asset. Because your assault of her was captured on a live stream now spreading across every major platform. And because as the holder of 40% of Hayes Industrial, I have a profound interest in the judgment and stability of its leadership. The room erupted. Not loudly. Not chaotically. More like a field of whispers igniting at once. 40%. Did he say shareholder? Wait, he owns part of their company. I heard my father again. Breathless now. You own 40%. Yes, Richard. The calm in Marcus's voice was devastating. You should read what you sign more carefully. I pressed the ice pack harder against my cheek. Somewhere in the background my mother was speaking too fast to understand. Sophia was crying. Someone asked if the live stream was still active. Someone else said local business pages were already sharing clips. Marcus continued as if no one had interrupted. The penthouse you attempted to seize tonight was transferred as part of a negotiated executive compensation structure. Clause 15.3 grants the firm the right to intervene in any attempt to force a transfer under duress or coercion. That clause is now active. My father made a strangled sound. You cannot be serious. I am entirely serious. Paper rustled. I pictured one of the lawyers opening a folder on the head table while candlelight shook over the documents. You also signed a shareholder conduct agreement 5 years ago, Marcus said. Page 47. Morality and reputational risk. I can call an emergency board review within 24 hours. The Jensen Trust holds 15%, and they are already aware of the video. If they align with me, you no longer control the outcome. No one spoke. Sometimes the most terrifying thing is not a threat. It is math. Dad understood that. I could hear it in the silence that followed. Mom finally burst out. This is extortion. No, Mrs. Hayes, Marcus said. Extortion was publicly demanding your daughter's home, and striking her when she refused. This is consequence. I actually laughed then. A short, tired laugh that surprised me. Because he was right. Dad's voice came back smaller than I had ever heard it. Madison is there. Is she listening? I answered before Marcus could. I am here. A beat of silence. Then Dad. Tell him to stop. Please. This has gone far enough. Too far, I said. You mean like announcing my house as a gift? Or like letting Mom slap me in front of 200 people? Which part felt like enough to you? He had no answer. Marcus spoke again. Here is what happens next. Richard, you have 48 hours to issue a public apology to Madison. Not a private call. Not an internal excuse. A public statement. You will acknowledge her professional achievements. You will acknowledge her ownership of the penthouse. You will state clearly that no one has any claim to it. Carol, you will do the same, and you will not contact Madison directly unless invited. Any attempt to pressure, guilt, manipulate, or retaliate will trigger immediate legal action. Mom almost shrieked. She is our daughter. Then treat her like one, Marcus said. There was movement in the ballroom. Chairs scraping. Guests murmuring louder now. You could hear the social tide turning in real time. Once power enters a room, people quickly discover their principles. Sophia's voice broke through next. This was supposed to be my wedding day. And it still is, Marcus said. What happens after this depends on the family that created this mess. Not the daughter who refused to be robbed. Then he addressed me directly. Madison. Do you wish to press charges for assault? That question hung in the room like a blade. I thought of my cheek. The silence after the slap. The years before it. I thought of what my mother would do if I said yes. I thought of what it would mean if I said no. Then I answered. Not tonight. But I want every piece of footage preserved. Already handled, Marcus said. The photographer sent his files. The live stream has been archived. We have witness names. Your position is secure. Secure. Another word that felt foreign and precious at once. My father groaned softly in the background. Mom started crying now. Real crying. Furious crying. The kind that came only when she realized the room no longer belonged to her. Sophia said my name like an accusation. How could you do this to me? I looked out at my city. I did not do this to you. I said no. Everything after that was your choice. Dad's choice. Mom's choice. If your happiness depended on taking my home, then it was never happiness. It was entitlement dressed up as family. The silence after that was heavier than any shouting. Marcus spoke one final time. 48 hours, Richard. Public apology or I call the board. Then the line went dead. I stood alone in my penthouse and finally let the ice pack fall to my lap. There are moments when revenge looks dramatic in movies. Shouting. Smirking. Perfect lines delivered at the perfect time. In real life, revenge often looks like paperwork. It looks like contracts and evidence and waiting while people realize the person they underestimated has more leverage than they ever imagined. That night I poured myself a glass of red wine and sat in the dark with the city spread out below me. My phone kept buzzing. I let it. Eventually curiosity got the better of me, and I checked the notifications. The live stream clip of the slap had already been shared thousands of times. Someone had titled it "Mother demands daughter's $2 million penthouse at wedding then slaps her for refusing." Another account posted a slowed clip of my earring hitting the marble floor with text that read the moment the whole room realized they had the wrong villain. Comments poured in faster than I could scroll. She paid for the wedding, and they wanted her house too. The calm after the slap is scarier than any scream. Her family really thought public pressure would work because it probably always had. That CEO entrance is movie-level karma. People who had never met me could see what my family had missed for years. Or maybe refused to see. At 11:30 my father finally texted. "Please answer. We can fix this." Then another. "You do not understand what this could do to the company." That one told me everything. Not "I am sorry." Not "Are you okay?" Not "Your mother should never have touched you." Only fear for the company. For the money. For himself. My mother texted next. "You have destroyed your sister's wedding. I hope you are proud of yourself." Then Sophia. "Guests are leaving. Brian's parents are furious. You could have just said yes for one night and figured it out later." I stared at that message for a long time. That was the mindset exactly. Just surrender now. Fix your own violation later. Keep the peace. Absorb the harm. Protect the image. That is how people stay trapped inside dysfunctional families for decades. They are taught that timing matters more than truth. That appearances matter more than dignity. That boundaries are cruelty when set by the scapegoat. I typed one line to Sophia. "If your marriage needed my penthouse to begin, then it never had a foundation." Then I muted the conversation. Just after midnight Marcus called again. "It is worse than they expected," he said. "3 of your father's clients have already reached out. 1 terminated immediately." That fast. The video has spread through the city's business circles. No one wants to be associated with public abuse and attempted coercion. Especially not now. Especially not on camera. I sat at the kitchen island and swirled the wine in my glass. How bad is it really? For your father. Potentially catastrophic. For you. Potentially transformative. I laughed once. That sounds ominous. It is honest. The board has seen the clip. They are not focused on the family drama. They are focused on how you handled pressure. You stayed composed. You protected the asset. You refused coercion under public scrutiny. That matters. Getting slapped was not in my leadership plan. No. But resilience under attack is still leadership. He paused. "For what it is worth, I am sorry, I was right about your family." "So am I." Then more gently than I expected he said, "Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be uglier before it gets clear." He was right. The next morning I woke to 23 missed calls and over 100 messages. My face had darkened into a bruise along the cheekbone. I took a photo for documentation and sent it to legal. Then I made coffee and stood by the windows watching sunrise flood the city gold. For the first time in years no one could force me back into the old role. The evidence was public now. You cannot gaslight someone when the world saw it too. I checked the news. Local entertainment pages had picked up the story first. Then business blogs. Then mainstream regional outlets. Wedding live stream exposes family assault and inheritance dispute. Executive targeted at sister's wedding after refusing to surrender luxury penthouse. Video raises questions about leadership ethics at Hayes Industrial. They did not know the whole story yet. But they knew enough. My assistant texted at 7:20. The entire office has seen it. Also 5 executive recruiters reached out overnight. Apparently refusing extortion in heels is very on brand for the current market. That made me laugh harder than it should have. At 9 Brian called. I hesitated. Then answered. Madison. His voice sounded wrecked. I did not know about the announcement. I swear I did not. I believe you, I said. There was a pause. Then. I knew Sophia thought your place was amazing. I knew your parents talked about how unfair it was that you had all that space, and she and I would start out in a condo. But I did not know they were planning this. If I had known, I would have stopped it. Would you? Yes. I think so. I hope so. That honesty almost hurt more than a lie. He was not certain. Because certainty requires strength. And if Brian had strength where Sophia was concerned, this wedding might never have happened. I am sorry about your mother, he said quietly. That was assault. There is no excuse. No, there is not. My parents are saying this is all a misunderstanding. I let out a breath. Was it a misunderstanding when they announced my house as a gift? Or when your brother live streamed it? Or when she hit me? He did not answer. Then softer. My parents want us to delay the honeymoon. That is probably wise. They think your family is toxic. I looked at the bruise in the reflection of the window. They are not wrong. He thanked me for answering. Then he hung up. Around noon James called up from the lobby. Miss Hayes, there are flowers here from your father. Do not send them up, I said. Return them. He hesitated. There is also a handwritten note. Throw it away. Yes, ma'am. That felt important. Not dramatic. Not cruel. Just clear. By afternoon the fallout was accelerating. A former client of my father's sent me a private message through LinkedIn. I do not know you personally, but I saw the clip. You handled yourself with remarkable composure. No one deserves that treatment. Another came from a woman I had met once at a conference. I was the family ATM too. Watching you say no felt like oxygen. Then came a message from cousin Derek. I am sorry. I really am. I thought they just teased you. I did not realize it was like this. I stared at that for a while. The truth is, people usually do realize more than they admit. They just prefer comfort over confrontation until the cruelty becomes undeniable. Still, I replied. Thank you. Now you know. He sent back only a thumbs up. My mother went in the opposite direction. Around 3 she posted on social media. There are always 2 sides to every family story. Some daughters become so obsessed with money and status that they forget the people who loved them first. The comments did not go the way she expected. Did love involve slapping her? We all saw the video, Carol. You do not get to talk about family values after that live stream. She deleted the post within an hour. Too late. Screenshots were everywhere. That night Marcus sent me a summary from legal. Your father's company had lost 2 more contracts. An emergency internal meeting was already being discussed. The Jensen Trust had requested documentation. And Marcus himself had been contacted by 2 board members asking whether the firm intended to retain me long-term in a larger leadership capacity. That last part one read twice. Long-term in a larger capacity. I slept surprisingly well. Not because life was easy. Because clarity is restful. The second day was worse for them. Brian's family apparently demanded a private meeting with Sophia and my parents. By evening I heard through an indirect chain of messages that the honeymoon to Bali had been postponed. Not due to weather. Not due to scheduling. Due to concern. Concern about what kind of family Brian had just married into, and what that meant for his future. My father called again that night. I did not answer. He left a voicemail. Madison, this has gone too far. Your mother did not mean to hit you. She was emotional. We are under enormous pressure. You know how these things spiral. Call me so we can resolve this privately before the company overreacts. He still did not say I am sorry. That voicemail became the reason I never felt guilty again. Because even in crisis he could only imagine managing appearances. Not accountability. 47 hours after Marcus gave the ultimatum, my father issued his statement. It was posted on the company site and shared through his public channels. I apologized to my daughter Madison Hayes for my behavior at a recent family event. I acknowledge her professional accomplishments and her full and independent ownership of her residence. No person has any claim over her property. I regret the public nature of the incident and the distress caused. Lawyer language. Bloodless. Controlled. But still a surrender. My mother refused. Instead she called relatives one by one claiming she had been provoked. Claiming I had ruined Sophia's life out of jealousy. Claiming Marcus had manipulated the whole thing because I had lied about my position and somehow seduced powerful people into defending me. When those calls got back to me through different channels, I almost admired the desperation. People who cannot control the narrative will often invent a fantasy where they are still the victim of your boundary. Sophia texted 3 days later. Brian's parents are insisting on counseling before they will fully support the marriage. Are you happy now? I replied. I did not make them see something that was not there. She sent back. I hate you. I wrote. I know. Then blocked her. Monday morning Marcus called me into his office. Hayes Capital occupied the top floors of a glass tower downtown. I walked in wearing a charcoal suit, and a bruise fading yellow at the edge of my cheekbone. People looked at me differently now. Not with pity. With a kind of sharpened respect. Marcus stood by the windows when I entered. Dark suit. Silver tie. One hand in his pocket. He did not waste time. The board wants to promote you. I blinked once. Promote me. Senior Vice President of Global Operations. Your Asia Pacific work already put you in the conversation. What happened at the wedding accelerated it. I let out a breath that almost became a laugh. So being assaulted at a reception is a viable career strategy now. He actually smiled. Not the assault. The response. You stayed calm in a public attempt to strip you of a major asset. You protected your position. You used the support available to you without collapsing into chaos. Most people in that room were trying to manage emotions. You managed reality. I sat down slowly. There was more. The promotion came with a 40% raise. Additional stock options. Expanded regional authority. A revised compensation structure. Enough to buy another penthouse if I wanted. Not that I wanted another one. I had no need to duplicate a symbol. I had only needed to defend it. Marcus slid the folder across the desk. You earned this long before that wedding. Do not make the mistake of thinking your suffering created your value. It only exposed it to people who had not been paying attention. I looked at him. Thank you. For what? For seeing me before there was proof. He nodded once. That is what good leadership is supposed to do. I signed the papers. Then I made a decision that mattered more to me personally than the promotion. I donated my raise bonus to a women's shelter that specialized in helping abuse victims leave controlling families and partners. I did it quietly. No announcement. No tax posturing. No public statement. Just because I knew now with full certainty that abuse does not begin with a slap. The slap is simply the first moment other people can no longer deny it. The weeks that followed rearranged my life. I changed the locks on the penthouse. I updated building security with a permanent do not admit list. My parents were on it. Sophia too. Along with Aunt Sally, who once somehow got hold of my old building access code and used it to surprise me with a casserole and 6 passive-aggressive comments about my lifestyle. James reviewed the list without expression. Understood, Miss Hayes. Then after a pause he said quietly, "Good for you." That meant more than he probably knew. At work my new role expanded quickly. Zurich. Dubai. Seoul. 12 countries under my division. Larger teams. More travel. More influence. Less room for nonsense. For the first time in my adult life I stopped building my success like a defense argument. I no longer felt the need to explain why I worked so much. Why I was single. Why I wanted a life that did not fit the script my family believed women should follow. I had spent years unconsciously trying to make my life legible to people committed to misunderstanding it. I stopped. 3 months later Forbes featured me in a piece on rising executives reshaping global investment strategy. The article highlighted my work in Asian market expansion and my leadership during a year of aggressive growth. Not one word about the wedding. That mattered. Because I was not interested in becoming famous for surviving abuse. I wanted to be known for the empire I was building after it. Dad's company stabilized eventually, but it never recovered its prior momentum. Too many clients had quietly stepped back. Too many people had seen that video and could not unsee the ugliness behind the polished family brand. Through business circles I heard he had started therapy. I also heard he had lost sleep. Lost weight. Lost credibility. For the first time in his life the cost of protecting appearances was higher than the cost of telling the truth. Mom doubled down. She always would. Some people would rather live in permanent grievance than stand still long enough to meet their own shame. Sophia's marriage lasted for months. Counseling exposed what the wedding had only previewed. Entitlement. Emotional immaturity. A deep expectation that love meant provision and agreement. Brian finally saw what I had seen for years. A beautiful performance built on other people's labor. Their divorce was quiet. One evening not long after it finalized I got a text from an unknown number. "I hope you are happy. You got everything." I knew it was Sophia before she signed her name. I replied, "No. I kept what was mine. There is a difference." Then I blocked that number too. People sometimes ask if I miss my family. The honest answer is I miss the idea of having one. I miss what I kept trying to earn from them. The tenderness. The pride. The simple uncomplicated safety people are supposed to feel with those who raised them. But I do not miss who they actually were. I do not miss walking into rooms already braced for criticism. I do not miss feeling guilty for succeeding. I do not miss the way my mother praised my sister by subtracting from me. I do not miss my father's habit of treating my resources like communal property. I do not miss being valued only when I was useful. At Hayes Capital I found something better than blood. I found consistency. Respect. Mentorship. Colleagues who celebrated success instead of resenting it. Marcus and his wife began inviting me to dinner sometimes. Their daughters were both in college. Smart. Ambitious. Funny. One of them told me over dessert one night, "You make it look possible to be powerful without apologizing." That sentence healed something in me I had not known was still bleeding. Because that was the real inheritance my family had tried to deny me. Not money. Permission. Permission to take up space. To be brilliant. To own beautiful things. To say no without collapsing into guilt. To let consequences land where they belong. About 6 months after the wedding I received one more message from my father. It was short. I am in therapy. I should have protected you. I did not. I am sorry. I stared at it for a very long time. That was the apology I had wanted all along. Not the public statement. Not the lawyer phrasing. That simple truth. But some apologies arrive after the relationship has already died. They can be real and still be too late. I did not respond. Silence can be closure when words would only reopen the door. Now every morning I wake up in the penthouse they tried to take from me. I make coffee in a kitchen flooded with sunrise. I stand at the glass and watch the city come alive beneath me. Some mornings are quiet. Some are full of meetings and flights and deadlines. Some carry a little ache for what should have been different. But none of them carry shame anymore. That is what I protected that night. Not just property. Peace. Self-respect. The right to stop financing people who resented me. The right to stop auditioning for love in a house where I was only ever cast as the supporting role. If you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in my story, then hear me carefully. The people who call you selfish when you set a boundary were benefiting from your lack of one. The people who demand loyalty while humiliating you are not asking for love. They are asking for access. The people who tell you family is everything while treating you like nothing are counting on your guilt to keep the system alive. You do not owe your life to people who only value it when they can control it. You do not owe your home, your money, your time, your body, your peace, or your success to anyone just because they share your blood. And you do not have to wait for a slap to admit that what is happening to you is abuse. If they constantly minimize you, compare you, manipulate you, shame you, use you, or punish you for saying no, then the violence started long before anyone raised a hand. I wish someone had told me that years earlier. Maybe I would have left sooner. Maybe I would have loved myself sooner. Maybe I would have stopped mistaking endurance for loyalty. So let me tell you now in the clearest way I can. Protect what you build. Protect your peace before you lose it trying to look like a good daughter, or a good son, or a good sibling in a family that only rewards your self-betrayal. Choose the people who choose you even when they gain nothing from it. And if you are standing at the edge of a decision right now wondering whether you are allowed to walk away from people who keep hurting you, then let my answer be the one you borrow until your own voice gets stronger. Yes. Yes, you are. Walk away. Lock the door. Keep the keys. And never again hand your future to people who only love the version of you that came without boundaries. If this story hit you in the chest, then do not just watch and move on. Comment "I choose me" if you are done shrinking for toxic family. Send this to the one person in your life who needs permission to stop being used. Subscribe if you want more stories that tell the truth people are too scared to say out loud. Because somewhere out there another daughter is being told she is selfish for protecting what she earned. Another son is being guilted into carrying a family that would never carry him. Another person is about to mistake silence for peace when really it is just fear. Do not let that be the end of their story. Or yours. Your peace is not negotiable. Your boundaries are not cruelty. And the life you built with your own hands does not belong to anyone who only shows up to take it.